You want to know what infuriates me more than anything else in professional wrestling? When corporate executives who haven't stepped foot in a ring in years suddenly decide they can physically dominate active wrestlers and face zero consequences for it. Triple H, Paul Levesque, the chief content officer, the man who sits behind a desk making booking decisions, just physically attacked and humiliated Nick Aldis and the Vision on Monday Night Raw, and WWE is celebrating it like some heroic moment. But here's what they're not telling you. This happened right after CM Punk launched his own brutal assault, meaning the Vision got jumped by two legends in one night, and somehow we're supposed to cheer? This is corporate abuse of power dressed up as justice, and I'm about to expose exactly why this moment should terrify every single person who cares about the future of WWE. Let me paint the picture of what went down on Raw, because mainstream wrestling media is spinning this as Triple H standing up for WWE, when it's actually billionaire's son-in-law abuses his executive authority to physically assault employees. The night started with CM Punk, and we'll get to his role in this mess, but it ended with Triple H coming out to Raw in a suit, grabbing Nick Aldis by the throat, and essentially ending both Aldis's authority and the Vision's momentum in one tyrannical power trip. CM Punk attacked the Vision earlier in the show. Completely unprovoked, completely brutal, and completely in line with Punk's character as someone who does whatever he wants without consequences because he's CM Punk. He hit the Vision members with chair shots, sent them through tables, and left them broken in the middle of the ring while the crowd chanted his name. Already problematic, right? Already a situation where someone should face disciplinary action? But WWE doesn't care about consistency or rules. They care about moments. Quick question for you. Do you think CM Punk should face consequences for attacking the Vision unprovoked? Or does his star power put him above the rules? Drop your honest take in the comments. Nick Aldis, who's been serving as the authority figure on Raw, the general manager responsible for maintaining order, came out to address the situation. And here's where things get interesting. Aldis defended the Vision. He said they didn't deserve what Punk did to them. He said there would be consequences for Punk's actions. He was doing his job as an authority figure, showing that even heels are protected under WWE's supposed rules and regulations. That's called consistency. That's called management. But Triple H didn't see it that way. Oh no, the King of Kings, the man who runs the entire creative direction of WWE, took personal offense to Nick Aldis suggesting that CM Punk, Triple H's golden boy, his AEW defector, his ratings draw, should face any sort of punishment whatsoever. So what did Triple H do? He marched down to that ring, got in Nick Aldis's face, and proceeded to verbally eviscerate him on live television. The promo was vintage Triple H, condescending, dismissive, dripping with the kind of entitled arrogance that only someone who married the boss's daughter can possess. He told Aldis that he's forgotten his place, that he works for WWE and not the other way around, that his job is to make Triple H's vision a reality, not to question the actions of top stars. It was a public humiliation of an authority figure, broadcast to millions of people, designed to make Aldis look weak and subordinate. But Triple H wasn't done. The Vision, who had been recovering backstage from Punk's earlier assault, made the mistake of coming out to support Aldis. And that's when Triple H dropped the hammer, literally and figuratively. He announced that the Vision's push was over, that their opportunities were gone, and that if they had a problem with his decision, they could take it up with him right now. Here's a question that'll make you think. Should non-wrestlers in executive positions ever put their hands on active roster members? Or does that completely destroy kayfabe hierarchy? Let me know in the comments. The Vision, to their credit, didn't back down. They surrounded the ring, they talked about how Triple H represents everything corrupt about WWE, how he protects his favorites and buries anyone who threatens the status quo, how his corporate tyranny is exactly what they've been fighting against. And you know what? They were speaking truth. Every word out of their mouths was factually accurate based on what we were watching happen in real time. That's when Triple H snapped. He took off his suit jacket, rolled up his sleeves, and I kid you not, this 55-year-old executive who hasn't had a match in over a year started throwing hands with the Vision members. He hit a spinebuster on one. He hit a pedigree on another. He stood tall in the ring, flexing and posing like he just conquered the world, while Nick Aldis and the Vision lay broken around him. The crowd went insane. They chanted, "Triple H! Triple H!" Like this was the greatest moment in Raw history. The commentary team sold it as this heroic stand by a man defending his company's honor. But let me ask you something. What message does this send to the actual wrestlers on the roster? What does it tell them when the boss can physically dominate them whenever he feels like it? What does it mean for the Vision's credibility when they can be destroyed by someone who isn't even an active competitor? This is corporate abuse of power disguised as entertainment. This is Vince McMahon-era booking where the billionaire authority figure always goes over the talent because ego matters more than building new stars. We thought we were done with this when Triple H took over creative. We thought the days of egotistical authority figures burying young talent were over. But apparently, once a power tripper, always a power tripper. Another question. Did this segment make Triple H look strong? Or did it make the Vision look weak? Comment your answer because this is crucial to understanding why this moment is so damaging. Let's talk about Nick Aldis specifically, because his humiliation might be the most egregious part of this entire disaster. Aldis is a former NWA World Heavyweight Champion, a wrestler with legitimate credibility and name value. WWE brought him in to be an authority figure, gave him responsibility over Raw, and positioned him as someone the roster should respect. And in one segment, Triple H destroyed all of that. Aldis stood there while his boss verbally destroyed him. He couldn't fight back. What's he gonna do? Punch the chief content officer? He couldn't quit in protest because he has a contract and a family to feed. He was trapped in a position where he had to take the abuse, had to accept the humiliation, and had to watch as Triple H physically dominated the wrestlers under his authority. How is Nick Aldis supposed to command respect from the Raw roster after that? How is anyone supposed to take him seriously as an authority figure? The answer is they can't and they won't. Triple H effectively ended Nick Aldis's credibility as Raw general manager in that one segment. Either Aldis gets removed from the position in storyline, which makes him look like a failure, or he stays in the role as a neutered, powerless figurehead, which makes him look pathetic. There's no good outcome here. His character is cooked. And the Vision? Forget about it. They've been one of the hottest acts on Raw for months. They had momentum, they had heat, they had a legitimate argument about WWE's corruption and favoritism. They attacked legends and established themselves as genuine threats. And then Triple H, a non-active wrestler, a corporate executive, took out multiple members of their faction by himself. How are we supposed to take them seriously as threats now? Quick trivia. Can you name the last time an authority figure physically dominated an entire faction and that faction recovered from it? Drop your answer in the comments. I'll wait. Here's the pattern WWE keeps repeating. Build up new talent, get them over as credible threats, then have a legend or authority figure destroy them to pop the crowd for one night, then act confused when that new talent never reaches their potential. It happened with the Nexus when Cena and the veterans buried them. It happened with Bray Wyatt repeatedly. It happened with Rusev. It happened with countless others. And now it's happening to the Vision. The short-term pop isn't worth the long-term damage. Yes, the crowd went crazy when Triple H hit that pedigree. Yes, it'll get views on YouTube and social media. But 6 months from now, when the Vision is floundering in mid-card purgatory and fans are complaining about WWE not creating new stars, this will be why. You can't build credible antagonists if you constantly sacrifice them for nostalgia pops and authority figure ego trips. Let's circle back to CM Punk's role in this mess, because he's equally culpable. Punk attacked the Vision unprovoked with weapons in what should constitute assault under any reasonable workplace policy. But because he's CM Punk, because he draws ratings, because Triple H needs him to compete with AEW star power, he faces zero consequences. In fact, he gets rewarded by having the boss come out and defend his actions while punishing anyone who criticizes him. This creates a two-tiered system in WWE where stars like Punk can do whatever they want, while younger wrestlers like the Vision have to follow rules that don't apply to the chosen ones. And before you say, that's just wrestling, remember that good wrestling storytelling requires internal consistency. If rules exist, they should apply to everyone, or there should be a story about why certain people are above the rules. But WWE doesn't even attempt that nuance. They just want you to cheer because it's Punk and Triple H. Here's a question that'll split the audience. Is CM Punk's presence in WWE worth the damage it does to younger talent who get fed to him? Give me your honest opinion in the comments. The commentary team's role in selling this as a positive moment deserves criticism too. Michael Cole, Corey Graves, whoever else was on commentary, they sold Triple H's assault as heroic, as necessary, as justice being served. Not once did they question whether it was appropriate for an executive to physically attack employees. Not once did they suggest maybe the vision had a point about corporate corruption. They just parroted the company line like good little soldiers. Commentary should add nuance to storytelling. When authority figures abuse power, even if they're technically babyfaces, commentary should acknowledge the moral complexity. When legends destroy younger talent, commentary should at least mention the implications for those younger wrestlers' futures. But modern WWE commentary is just marketing. They sell you the narrative WWE wants you to believe regardless of whether it makes logical sense. Social media reactions have been predictably divided. Triple H fans are celebrating, posting clips with captions like, "The King of Kings reminds everyone who's boss," and "Triple H destroys the vision." But a significant portion of the wrestling community is asking the same questions I'm asking. Why did this need to happen? What purpose does it serve? Who benefits from this booking besides Triple H's ego? The Vision fans, and yes, they have fans despite being heels because they're well-defined characters with legitimate grievances, are rightfully furious. They've watched their faction get built up over months only to be destroyed in one segment by a 55-year-old executive who shouldn't be anywhere near an active storyline as a physical competitor. That's not satisfying storytelling, that's creative malpractice. Let me hit you with another question. If you were booking Raw, would you ever have Triple H physically compete against active roster members? Or should executives stay out of the ring entirely? Comment your booking philosophy. Here's what should have happened. CM Punk attacks the Vision. Nick Aldis announces consequences for Punk. Punk appeals to Triple H. Triple H upholds Aldis's decision because that's what a real authority figure does when their management makes reasonable calls. The Vision respects that the system works, and everyone moves forward with their credibility intact. That's how you book consistent, logical television that doesn't sacrifice long-term storytelling for short-term pops. Or, if you absolutely must have Triple H involved physically, have him announce consequences for Punk, the Vision attacks him in response, and then he fights back in self-defense. At least that way he's not the aggressor, at least that way the Vision remains credible as threats, at least that way the hierarchy isn't completely destroyed. But WWE doesn't think that far ahead anymore. The implications for Raw's future are concerning. If Triple H can just show up and physically end anyone's push whenever he feels like it, what's the point of building new stars? What's the point of long-term storytelling? What's the point of authority figures like Nick Aldis if they can be publicly humiliated and overruled at any moment? You've essentially created a system where nothing matters except what Triple H wants in that specific moment. This also sets a terrible precedent for how executives interact with talent. In a real workplace, a boss physically assaulting employees, even in a scripted entertainment context, sends a message about power dynamics that's deeply problematic. WWE is already dealing with enough legitimate workplace culture issues without adding storylines that glorify executive abuse of authority. One final question before we close. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much damage did this segment do to the Vision's long-term credibility? Is that all the pieces were there for a compelling long-term story? The Vision had legitimate heat. Nick Aldis was establishing himself as a competent authority figure. CM Punk's chaotic energy creates natural conflict. You could build months of television around these elements. Instead, WWE blew it all up in one night for a nostalgia pop and an ego trip for their chief content officer. Triple H ending Nick Aldis and the Vision after Punk's attack isn't justice. It's tyranny. It's an abuse of corporate power that makes the supposed villains sympathetic and the supposed heroes look like hypocritical bullies. It sacrifices long-term storytelling for short-term reactions. And it proves that despite all the talk about new era and fresh direction, WWE is still running the same playbook where egos matter more than building the future. Make sure you're subscribed to SUPLEX Ring Saga because we're going to keep covering this disaster as it unfolds. Smash that like button if you're as frustrated as I am with this booking decision. And get in those comments. I want to hear